when I was watching you and I wanted to be jacked, it wasn't like steroids are so frowned upon, but it was more like a scary land of the unknown. And now you have people just like openly talking about like how much they love steroids, and it's kind of not as like this scary niche where it's like this huge. Everybody knows about it now, so there's a lot of information that's readily available about it. So I don't think it's less frowned upon because it's still very frowned upon amongst like your audience interest. Most of them aren't big with the steroids. So I don't think it's that narrative shifted, but I think it's just easier to find out about like how you get started making movies.
Got you. So do you like how many cycles have you done so far?
I'm on my third right now.
Third. Okay.
Yeah.
How much muscle or how much weight did you gain on your first?
Well, that's what I went viral for was my first cycle because I was dialed back then, and so I gained like 40, 45 pounds of muscle. Well, that was in my first two cycles. So my first one, I don't know exactly what it was. But this cycle has been shocking. I've effectively wasted this whole cycle because I've just been like, I work out like 2, 3 times a week. I eat whatever I want. Just because like I don't really care what I look like anymore. Like I would because it gets to a point like once you have to eat. This is, I don't need to like, I'm not hungry for it anymore. Like I'm happy with how I look.
That's interesting because I feel like a lot of people who hop on here, it's like, it becomes an issue because it's like you want to keep hopping. So do you feel like that's not you?
No, bro. I a lot of people that I've talked to, like my roommate, I've had this conversation with him. It was like the second we hopped on here, and a lot of people, like, it's not like, a lot of people, it's not like that, but it's like, you take steroids, and then in 6 months I had them. It was like, I didn't like how I looked, took steroids. 6 months later, I think, you know what, I love how I look, and I don't need to be so, like, I don't need to spend all my time in the gym. I used to be so stressed out to miss 2 days in a row, and now it's like I go live my life, like go on vacation, like have a nice dinner. It used to be like chicken rice. Now I don't care.
That's how I was. Like as of the last year, I've definitely allowed my body. Like I'm not doing the struggle as obviously. Like I sit around now like a really easy maintainable like 12 to 13% body fat, probably 14 maybe. So like I'm not like crazy like shredded aesthetic like people know. I probably can go off of it, but I've gotten to the point now where like I'm just on vacation. I don't have to work out those days. I don't stress over it. When I started, I was like non-stop. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes just to look at the protein shakes after your Fredos and get kind of model.
Well, you have like a different pressure on you because like I'm kind of known for like doing all the dumb shit I do, being entertaining and like gambling and all that. But you've been using yourself looking like having like the dream physique for a lot of these people. So there's like a more pressure for you definitely, or was. So like, look at that. I know Brandon feels the same way. He's always talking about like, I'm so excited to cut, get shredded because then the views go up.
Yeah.
And so I can see why that would be like an unhealthy relationship with him.
Oh yeah. Like I remember I got my testosterone levels checked, and this like I'm natural, and I got tested. It was at 215.
Are you still low?
No, so last time I got it checked was probably 3 months ago. It was, I believe, 600.
Oh, wait. So you're chilling. That's
yeah,
fully normal. I remember you were talking about taking care of you.
Yeah.
When you were first at 200, why did you not do that?
I feel like, to me, like, the biggest thing that's always going to be away from, like, first, I hate needles. Like, I know that's, like, probably, like, people might think that's just, like, yeah. I don't like needles. Like, I hate getting my blood taken. Like, I hate needles, and I could not imagine myself, like, having to do that, twice a week for the rest of my life, almost?
Yeah. There's just, like, the payout is huge. Like, you go to the doctor fucking twice a week, once, twice a week, and then, I guess your testosterone's fine now, but for somebody that has chronically, like, maybe you just got a bad night's sleep or something before you got tested, but somebody that has chronically low testosterone, you feel just 10 times better in all aspects of your life. There's one shot a week.
I mean, I was, when I got it tested, I was probably simulated body fat for like 8 months straight. So I think a big part of it was just like dieting so long to make myself. I'm not directly opposed to TRT at a certain point. Like, if you're like clearly in a healthy body fat range, clearly getting enough in your testosterone messed up, or if like you're older, like in your 30s and it starts crashing, I'm not opposed to doing like 130 whatever milligrams, whatever how it works, like a week to like stay in that like, you know, max 1,000 nanograms per deciliter range. I think that's perfectly fine, and I'm like cool with that. I think that can be healthy. I may like telling my dad he probably should look into it. I feel like a lot of kids are trying to use that as an excuse now, and then if you eventually will like, it's like a gateway drug, I feel like it could be. And then it's like, or now you're already pinning yourself, so let's like add in some other shit. You go down the whole rabbit hole of steroid use.
No, well, yeah, that's fair. I know a lot of, a couple of my friends, they take like low dose testosterone, and at first it's like, oh yeah, I have low testosterone, like I'm gonna take, we'll test. But then it's like, okay, well now I can take Superdrug because, like, even though that kind of like testosterone, like I have the base to bring you back up. So I can see, I agree with that for sure. But just because something's a gateway drug doesn't mean like in itself it's not, you know, worth doing. It's kind of more on your own self-control, not start taking Superdrug.
Yeah, what do you feel about like? Do you think at all about like the side effects? What is your stance on like what steroids can do to someone, especially probably from like over the younger population, like let's say younger kids who are getting it addicted and don't have the resources to take it in like a healthy way, getting their blood work done, specifically getting it done with going like those TRT clinics. A lot of these kids like they just might get it, you know, on the internet or from somebody. Like, what do you think that like people should really look into the side effects, like what it could really do long term wise?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that everybody should, like, everything you put in your body affects, like, even if it's not steroids, you know. And I think that I've been lucky enough to be able to take it in as safe a way as I can. But it's also like I don't really think about it too much because I don't necessarily care what other people are doing with their bodies. Like, seeing it, like going to college. Did you go to college?
I went for 2 years, dropped out my third.
So like you've seen how it goes. Like people do worse shit than steroids on a consistent basis. Like my lifestyle, a lot of people are like, "How is Tokyo Live? How is he sustaining this?" I'm probably one of the least degenerate out of all my college friends. Like those kids, I was the bitch in the group. Like they go 10 times harder than me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people are very, the body is very resilient, generally speaking. And I've never really concerned myself with like what other people are doing with their bodies. It concerns me more. It was thrown in my face more now that I like post about on the internet. People watch it, they're like, oh, like you're influencing these kids. But I'm not like here to influence. Like I'm sharing my personal experience. I'm not going to tell something. Well, I a couple times I've said take steroids, but that was more of like a sarcastic,
like a
joke. But that can get clipped out of context for sure. But generally speaking,
yeah, I'd say like I agree. Like even like saying solid, it's like no one's really telling you outright in the twins to do it. I think it's more so of like these kids who see someone living or seeing the results and wanting it for themselves, and like, oh, this guy did it, so I can probably maybe do it. I feel like it's not a direct, but I think it's a indirect promotion. And a lot of these kids, bro, like again, they're not like the. I mean, I know I was in high school. You really think very short term. Like you don't really. You can get like a quick something, especially in today's day and age. Like they'll do it. And I speak against the whole steroid thing because like I think people should talk more so about the potential side effects and how people can react and place more of a emphasis on it rather than like all like the cool stuff that comes with it, like the pumps and like
well that's why I stopped posting. Well, not necessarily exactly why, but like I don't post the gear and the sport because those don't necessarily look great. Draw the full picture. I don't think you can hold people like myself or Sulik or the Frenchmans responsible to any degree for like anybody, because although they have like an influence, you have to like when you look at like the responsibility ladder, you have to just like effectively blame it on the user entirely, because you could say I have an influence on these kids, but then if you look into it deeper, it's like, okay, so why does Togi do this? Oh, because I see Alex Eubanks, he lives by like dream life, he has cool cars, he's a fitness influencer, so now all of a sudden I want to be famous, I want to be like Eubanks. And I've talked about before, I took steroids largely because I wanted to be famous at first.
Really?
And so it's like, okay, now is it Alex Eubanks for creating Togi? Is it your fault now that these kids are influenced by me? So I think, and then you can go further down that ladder forever. So I think you just have to bite it off at the source. Like, this kid, you got to let him learn. And I made plenty of mistakes as a kid. Like, you know, I did a shit ton of drugs as a kid. And, like, overall, I learned from them. And it was a positive experience overall. And, like, sometimes, like, it just doesn't work out. And that's natural selection. If I died at a young age because of my poor decisions, like, that was self-inflicted. And maybe you can place responsibility on the parents. And that, I would say, as far as that would go.
Got you. I feel like, for me, my opinion of it, I feel like as influencers, we ought to have, I'm all about balance for me. So, like, that's why I like to have a lot of, like, not just, you know, lifting stuff. I'm big on, like, the faith and a lot of that. Because, like, being on a platform, I still think there should be a job, just like as a human morality. I feel like that God has put on my heart. It's just like to try to do something good with it. So if I know I'm in control, like in a sense, maybe I could prevent someone from possibly taking it in an unhealthy way. Like I'm going to speak against it because I do believe you can take steroids in a sense in a healthy way, but I know that like 99% of the population probably does not know how to go about it. They just see like, oh, the pump get big. Like they don't like see the intricacies that could be involved in it, which I feel like a lot of bodybuilders have to like kind of get into. So my biggest concern is why I speak against it so much is because I know like a lot of these kids are just going to crash out, take it, probably not get much results from it because they haven't been training well naturally to begin with, and then you either regret it and then have to be on like TRT for the rest of their life, but like, you know, they could have just maybe made a better decision. And I don't know, I feel like people take it for the wrong reasons too. So like,
Yeah.
and I think it stems from for a lot of kids taking it now, I think it stems from a bigger issue itself of them actually being potentially insecure of their physique, body dysmorphia, of course, which we've all struggled with, and then also too, I think some of them envy, especially now, like men trying to become better than their friends. So I feel like a lot of kids who hop in here, they might be saying it's, oh, I want to get bigger or whatnot, but I think it comes from underlying issues that they're not truly happy with themselves. They only find happiness in the gym. So if they can find something that can emphasize that even more, they do it. So I always think like finding, because I'm religious, so like finding faith and happiness in God, that fulfills me. Anything else other than that is just extra. So I feel like people find they get their value from the wrong things, such as their PR going up or their weight going up, and then that gives them that dopamine rush. So they want more of it. But in reality, like I doubt when you're on your deathbed, when you're like 80, whatever years old, you're gonna be thinking about like how sick you looked when you're in your 20s. You're probably gonna be thinking about.
You don't think? I think it's because it's an achievement. It's something that, as you go through life, you know, you're like ticking off boxes of like things that you've accomplished, and it took years for you to build your physique that you like, whatever your best physique was. You don't think that means anything to you on your deathbed? Like it took years of your life of dedication.
If you were literally dying on your deathbed, I feel like my main concern will be thinking of my family and the loved ones around me.
But that's the thing. It's like now your physique has gotten you to the point where you can provide everything for your family. Like having a good physique benefits a man's life in such a dramatic fashion that it's not just big muscles. Yeah. Now you can do cool things for your family and all this. So like it plays in.
But you could do it naturally though.
You can do it naturally, but here's the thing. I'm not saying taking steroids for bigger muscles for everybody, but like in my experience, it was I want to do everything in my life as fast as I can. It like bugs me that I couldn't take my mom on a vacation or this and that today. So it's like, what can I do to make this happen right or now?
Why do you feel that's the case? You feel like you have a limit on time? I mean, I'm obviously in the sense of you.
Because I feel so, like if I'm not, it's like, it's just the hunger, you know, like the drive to achieve what you want. I feel if I'm not getting there as fast as I possibly can, I feel almost like a loser, like I'm wasting my time. I'm not doing everything I can do to achieve my goals. I'm not doing everything I can do. I just feel like I'm wasting my potential.
I feel like though there's like you should still have a balance or an ethical way to get it. Like would you rather take a non-ethical way to the top, or would you rather take a slower?
What do see as like putting steroids in my body is like not ethical?
No, I would say like because we're using I guess the argument that it's going to get you there quicker. When to be honest, I don't think that's the truth. I don't think that's the case. Like some people, if you really think it's right, I think you can get there quicker. And then two, I think.
But what is right? Like, what's your definition of doing that?
I think doing it right is not only just thinking about yourself, but thinking about others along the way. So in a sense, trying to be selfless. So knowing that even though it's not you directly, but in a sense being on steroids and you know, in a sense of one point glorifying it, could potentially have other kids who are not the smartest make a dumb life decision by doing that. So I feel like there's an ethical way. Not to say that, because I'm not trying to say like my way was better or not. It's just I feel like there's a good way to the top where it's a little bit slower, but you can, in a sense, not just think about yourself but others too. I think that's like a more ethical approach to it, even if it does take longer. If you do it a little bit more of a way that you're considering what other people might do. Does that make sense?
No, I see what you're saying. So like, by me posting about my steroid use, it potentially reduces the ethics of the route in which I've taken. But it goes back to the original argument. Like I said, one of the big reasons I hopped on was to be famous, but it was also like I always wanted to be famous. I always wanted to take steroids. And I always loved drinking with cocaine, whatever. Like I always loved all that stuff. So when I went viral, it was like I'm just gonna be me in the most like purest aggressive form of myself, and it's not like all I am is entertainment. It's the same idea as like, are we gonna tell people to not smoke crack on a movie? Obviously, like when you actually smoke crack, this is like vlogs, which I don't smoke crack. We're working on it, but the point is that I can't sit here and be concerned about influencing others in a positive manner, even though that's the route you've chosen to take. I've chosen the route of purely entertainment. I think most people that watch me don't take it as like, you know, to be like, man, I post my blog, expecting anything. You just had, Greg Doucette just posted a video about me about how like I'm on the verge of death. And a lot of people see that stuff and it's like, oh, okay, like maybe I don't take steroids. So like it's hard to diagnose or exactly say the influence that I have because for all I know, I could be. I get a lot of people in my comments saying, "Damn, like I never want to gamble again after watching Togi lose that 200,000."
Yeah, I think you could be in this sense too. I think you could be helping people even with just entertaining. Some people need that who are like really depressed. Or sometimes entertainment in a sense can help them. So I don't think everything you're doing is in a sense bad. But going back to I guess the part of like getting there quicker, like do you feel like I don't know, for me personally getting the social media thing, I feel like I never placed it in my own hands and that gave me so much more peace with the timeline of it. It's like putting it like for me being like are you religious at all or not?
We're working on it. I am, like, I do believe in God. I'm just not educated on it. I was talking to Brandon about it because I was like, I don't understand Christianity, like, this weird set of rules that I have to follow, and, like, there's a lot of things that have been associated with Christianity that, like, don't follow my personal book of ethics. But then he just said, don't worry about Christianity, just follow the path of Jesus Christ. And that made sense to me. So that is where I'm leaning towards, is following Jesus.
All right, real quick, sorry to interrupt the podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying it, but I had to make a quick announcement. It's just if you guys are interested in potentially making money on social media, due to this the amount of people that I've been seeing, they would quit their jobs and just do social media full time, whether it's mastering TikTok shop or becoming a well-known content creator. Me and one of my friends are launching a course. Not even a course, but like kind of like a community, like a club. We're launching it at the end of this month. If you guys are interested potentially in anything like that, I'll have a waiting list down below in the pinned comment as well as the description.
I'm just not educated about it, and I've not put enough effort into it to like really have a strong opinion on where I stand with that. But I would like to learn more about it.
What like part of the ethics do you like this conflicts with yours? Let me just make sure this is right. So you can go.
Well, just like things like events like the Crusades or what is it called? The
Crucifixion.
Yeah, crucifixion. Or no, what is it? It's something else. No, what is the word? I don't know. There's been a lot of like war and death surrounding. No, not resurrection. There's been a lot of war and death surrounding a lot of religions. Crusades, yeah. So it's just like I don't understand exactly like how am I supposed to like associate with that? And I don't know a whole lot about it.
So the Crusades happened as a reaction to Islamic aggression on Christian countries.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a retaliatory act of these Islamic insurgents, whatnot, going into 20 plus countries, basically attacking them in a sense. And the Crusades was a response to that aggression. So people don't understand that. People that like, if you actually,
I don't understand.
So I encourage you to look into that because like I know people start trying to use the whole crusade argument of like Christianity to use Christianity to support violence, but they were using it as a means to try and. The Islamic people were like aggressively trying to limit Christianity, so it was like more of a retaliatory act of the Crusades. So not that like
Alexa, play some chill songs. Slow.
Did a lot of wrong things in the Crusades. But overall, that was a reaction. So like, I guess going back to the
Alexa,
whole Christian thing,
play some slow instrumentals.
Say, is that the only moral thing you feel like?
Well, no, some things it just like, doesn't make sense
No.
to me, like not having sex
Alexa,
before you marry.
play some slow instrumentals on Spotify.
But something along the lines of like
It talks about more so the concept of like lust and adultery.
yeah, and it's like I'm fucking horrible. So it's like
Alexa, put the volume down by 2.
Like a lot of things I do, like again, this is all like everything I say about this is like I've not directly read the Bible, so it's like I've heard from another person. So it might get lost in translation a little bit. But it sounds like taking steroids would be another thing that is not really within the ethical guideline of the Bible. So it seems like a lot of the things I do in my life, like I would have to research my whole life to identify as a good Christian. And that's
Okay, so there's those things to be Christian.
Okay.
What else is a good Christian? But the way for me, I'm like a history nerd, right? So for me, it's like if there was a man named Jesus who walked this earth, claimed to be God, died and rose again, and there's documents showing people saw him risen, meaning he probably is. If he really is who he said he was, meaning he's like God in the flesh, if he teached certain things, if that proves me that there was a God bigger than myself, even if that kind of goes against my flesh and what I want, I ought to learn to understand that his way might be better than what I think is the best way, is the right way. So, like, for me, if Jesus is real and if he is who he said he was, the things that he taught, although it might not align with how we're living now, maybe is a better way.
That makes sense.
It might be a better way. And you won't know that until you actually go along that line. So, like, I try to explain to people, because people see Christianity as like sometimes in a wrong view, I think. There's a book of rules that you ought to follow, and if you don't follow this, then...
Alexa, put the volume up by one. Alexa, put the volume up by one.
Remix.
Alexa, put the volume up by one. Alexa, put the volume up by one. Alexa, the volume down my room. Alexa,
Emphasis
put
on
the
it
volume
rather
down
than
my
like
room.
all like the cool stuff that comes with it, like the pumps and like.
Yeah, well, that's where I stopped wasting my potential.
Do you feel like though there's like
Bible, but something along the line. It just follow the path of Jesus Christ, and that made sense to me. So that is where I'm leaning towards, is following Jesus.
All right, real quick, sorry to interrupt the podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying it, but I had to make a quick announcement. This is just, if you guys are interested in potentially making money on social media, due to this, the amount of people that I've been seeing being able to quit their jobs and then just do social media full time, whether it's mastering TikTok shop or becoming a well-known content creator, me and my friends are launching a course. I'm not even just a course, but like kind of like a community, like a club. We're launching it at the end of this month. If you guys are interested potentially in anything like that, I'll have a waitlist down below, the pinned comment as well as the description.
I'm just not educated about it, and I've not put enough effort into it to like really have a strong opinion on where I stand with it. But I would like to know more.
what like part of the ethics do you feel like this conflicts with yours? Let me just make sure this is right.
Well, just like things like events like the crusade, what is it called? The
Crucifixion.
Yeah, crucifixion or whatever. No, it was what's it? Something else. No, what do you remember? I don't know. There's been a lot of like war and death surrounding. No, not resurrection. There's been a lot of war and death surrounding a lot of Crusades, yeah. So it's just like I don't understand exactly like how am I supposed to associate with that? I don't know.
So the Crusades happened as a reaction to Islamic aggression on Christian countries.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a retaliatory act against the Islamic insurgents whatnot, going into like 20 plus countries, basically attacking them in a sense. And the Crusades was a response to that aggression. So people don't understand that. People that like if you actually So I encourage you to look into that because like I know people start trying to use the whole crusade argument of like Christianity, they use Christianity to support violence, but they were using it as a means to try and the Islamic people were like aggressively trying to limit Christianity, so it was like a really retaliatory act of the Crusades. So not that like again on both sides going to be right and wrong. Still Christians 100% probably did a lot of wrong things in the Crusades, but overall that was a reaction. So like I guess going back to the whole Christian thing, so you would be leaning towards Christianity, you would say. Is that the only moral thing you feel like that conflicts
Well,
with
no,
you?
some things it just like doesn't make sense to me, like not having sex before I get married, or I forget exactly what it said in the Bible, but something along the lines of like
It talks about more so the concept of like lust and adultery.
yeah, and it's like I'm fucking horrible. So it's like, am I supposed to restructure my life? And a lot of things I do, like again, this is all like everything I say about this. It's like I'm not who read the Bible, so it's for another person, so it might get lost in translation a little bit. But like, it sounds like taking steroids would be another thing that is not really within the ethical guideline of the Bible. So it seems like a lot of things I do in my life, like I would have to restructure my whole life to identify as a good Christian, and that's something.
Okay, so there's no such thing as a good Christian.
Okay,
but honestly,
just a good Christian.
But the way for me, I'm like a history, right? So for me, it's like if there was a man named Jesus who walked this earth, claimed to be God, died, and rose again, and there was documents showing people saw him in prison, meaning he probably is. If he really is who he said he was, meaning he's like God in the flesh. If he teached certain things, and that proves me that there was a God bigger than myself, even if that kind of goes against my flesh of what I want, I ought to learn to understand that his way might be better than what I think is the best way. That's the right way. So like, for me, if Jesus is real and if he is who he said he was, the things that he taught, although it might not align with how we're living now, maybe is a better way.
That makes sense.
It might be a better way. And you won't know that until you actually go along that line. So like, I try and explain to people, because people see Christianity as like sometimes in the wrong view, I think, as a book of rules that you ought to follow. If you don't follow this, then it's like you're bad Christian or whatever. It's not that. It's to understand, like, in the Old Testament, it's a sin to murder, right? But Jesus takes it a step further. The Sermon on the Mount, he says it's not only a sin to murder, it's a sin to look at a person with anger, because you're basically committing murder in your heart. But I can say confidently, I don't care how close I am to God, I will always continue to naturally be angry with people. So what Jesus is saying there, it's not you have to live by these guidelines. It's pointing it to him, meaning you look at the way that he taught, and you realize, like, I can't go to this standard. Like, I don't care how close I get to you, God. Like, I can't. And then it points you to the man who was able to reach every single standard, which is Jesus. So Jesus, out of his love for you, right? God came down into a man to have a relationship with you. Because how else can we relate to God, realistically? How can we relate to a God if he's up in heaven, we never see him? Or can you relate to a God if he chose to came down as a man? Then you can relate to him because he's a man. Mm-hmm. You can only relate to another man. You can only relate on someone who also has felt anger, or who also has felt lust, or also has felt fear or sadness, right? You can only relate to someone who also has felt those things. So God loved us so much that he wanted to have a relationship. The only way that we could relate is if he came to man, as a man, because that's who Jesus is. And then he lived a perfect life that we couldn't live. You know what I mean? Because he loved us so much, and God is a just and a righteous God, right? So the same way our society works, if someone murders somebody, you're put on trial, you go to jail, right? If you sin in God's eyes, it says the wages of sin, the Bible, is death. The wages of sin is death. So when you sin, your spirit, in a sense, is dying. And God is a just and a righteous God, so therefore he has to punish accordingly. Those who are righteous are rewarded. Those who are unlawful and sinful are punished, as a just God should be, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we should all can agree, like, Hitler should go to hell, in a sense. Like, if you commit wrong, you should go to hell. And if God let Hitler go to heaven, in a sense, if he didn't come to Jesus, like, that's not a loving God. Why would God allow people who did all this bad and harm into heaven? That's not a loving God. God loves us, so he rewards the righteous and punishes the evil. So basically, the wages of sin is death. So Jesus, God, came in the form of a man to live with every temptation that we have lived, but did not fumble, did not fold to any of these temptations. So therefore, he was seen as pure, and he took the punishment on the cross for all of our sins if we choose to put faith in him. And I used to, like, always wonder, like, hey, why did he have to die? Like, what's the point of, like, why is there an exchange of value for dying, and that somehow covers, like, my sins? Mm-hmm. That's what I used to struggle with. But when you look at how the Israelites in the Old Testament were beforehand, when you sin, because the wages of sin is death, a part of your spirit dies. God is so holy and infinite and perfect that if you can't go in the presence of God if you have sin. If you directly disobey God, that's why we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. You can't be in his presence naturally because he is so holy. If we are not holy, we can't be in the presence of God. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm following.
So in the Old Testament, they would sacrifice, like, bulls and doves, and the bloodshed, the death of that animal, in a sense, would cover as an atonement for sin, so they could get closer to God, in a sense. There had to be an atonement. There had to be a exchange of value, meaning you sin, you died, and when they cover that death, there's a death of something else, because that gives it life. It's an exchange, like, of energy almost. It's like a way to put it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've always had, like, because that was the best explanation that I've ever heard as far as, like, the Jesus died for your sins thing. I've never heard anybody explain it in such a light. That makes perfect sense. So in your pursuit influencing, you feel like no matter what, if you're posting on the internet, like, say, like, Jesus were to be an influencer, like, he would be a good influence even if he was just to be, like, an entertainer. So that's why you feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And so if you were to look at my content, what exactly about it do you think needs to, or is not necessarily ethical? Because I think that I place a very fair evaluation of the vices that I choose to participate in. Like, I post my blood work online. Like, people see the steroids. Like, a lot of people watch me and they see the rawest form, what it looks like to gamble. Like, my last YouTube video is like, you lose all this money, and it's not like the classic, like, 99% of gamblers waiting for the win big. Like, no, Togi just lost all that fucking money, and there was no big win. It was fucked. Same with the steroids. Like, I have gyno, I'm going bald. That's the biggest thing. Like, I'm going bald rapidly. I have acne, so it's like, it's not like I'm sitting, Togi just lost all that fucking money, and there was no big win. It was fucked. Same with the steroids. Like, I have gyno, I'm going bald. That's the biggest thing. Like, I'm going bald rapidly. I have acne, so it's like, it's not like I'm sitting here, I'm displaying what it's like to use these vices, and people still think it looks fun, because I think it's fun too. Like, I still do them, and I think it's a good time, but it's not like I'm glorifying it by any means.
I say you do a better job at it now. I'd say when I first
I think it's fun too. Like I still do them, and I think it's a good time. But it's not like I'm glorifying it by any means.
I say you do a better job at it now. I'd say when I first initially was seeing like the gear edits, that's where I was more so like, all right, this is like that. You know what I mean? That's where it was like, oh. It'll still work. It'll still work. We're good.
All right, my apologies, podcast.
It's a big boy. Here, let me see it. I can fix it.
Quick pause. I know, fuck, that was the expensive one too, huh?
Yeah.
Thank God.
Going back to that, what we were talking basically, so I think your old content, I'd be like, all right. I think now, because obviously someone sees your video, you lose a hell of money, they'd be like, yo, I'm not gambling. Like, there's just no way I'm going to do this. But again, I just think and I don't think what you're doing is like, I'm not going to say your way is like wrong or bad and my way is. I think though, in a sense, being, whether or not you ask for it, being an influencer and being on a platform where you can reach other people, our job as humans, in a sense, is to love one another. So I think there's a way where you can like, I can still do it, be an entertainer, but tell people like, or maybe just add the extra initiative to like put them in the right direction. Just say like, which I know you do at the beginning, like your shit. Like I see there's like a little disclaimer thing or like a
that was more of
funny.
Well, that's more to like try and get around YouTube guidelines. It doesn't really, I don't even know that. But now it's kind of like, at least it's gonna like, it's
So I think if this is what I genuinely believe is that if you ever get, which I would love to like sit down even off camera and talk more about God, like got closer to God and you saw life the way that it actually genuinely is as like the guy who created you will start to think a lot more about being like, I'm not saying you're selfish, but you'll think a little. Your mind literally thinks differently. Like when God literally transforms, it's a sanctification aspect, and like it doesn't make sense really at first, and then once you start actually diving into it, like you literally get made. It says you become a new creation in a sense. So like I think if you ever at some point do get closer to God, you'll see a little bit more of like what I'm saying in that aspect, and you might in a way consider more of like any possibility, even if it's not like at the end of the day, like it is, if somebody chooses to crash out or like take steroids in a bad way or gamble in a bad way, like that is on them. But I think it's our job, and that's why I'm so open about my faith and my platform, is God's given me this platform. If I can help bring other people to Jesus and to actually find genuine like security, like again, going back to what I mentioned earlier with like people maybe getting into steroids because of insecurity, you can find genuine security, genuine fulfillment that is an everlasting fulfillment. Like I always explain, there's a story in the Bible about the woman at the well, and she's trying to get water, and she goes up to Samaritan woman, and the Bible, the Samaritans, like the Israelites, were like, they had beef. So he was coming up to her, and she was like, why are you trying to help me or whatnot? And basically the whole concept was him telling her that he's like living water, meaning you don't thirst again. When you drink from Jesus, you don't thirst for the things in this world. But when you don't have God, a lot of people in this society, they chase after everything they can: drugs, money, sex, women, gambling, like whatever it may be, to get that extra little dopamine rush or that extra little like high that will give them that temporary fulfillment. But at the end of the day, it's like drinking salt water. I tell people, it's like you're thirsty, so you go get this thing, but you're left more thirsty after. It doesn't fulfill you long. But I say like genuine relationship with God is the thing that fulfills you. It makes you literally never thirst again for any of these things. Not to say that they're bad though. I'm not trying to tell you like gambling. Like I think you can still do all that stuff in a healthy way that's like moderation or as like a sport. Like, maybe for me it might be going to a nice restaurant. For you it might be, putting that money towards a restaurant before you're playing like blackjack or something. Yeah. Like I don't see that as
but if I was to say I was like really close with God, how do you think my content would be different?
In the way, it's hard for me to say. I think it would just be, I think you would still probably do similar to the same stuff. I think you would just glorify him more. And when you get closer to God, it's more so putting, how can I serve you that he loves rather than serve myself? But again, there's a balance. So even me, like, you don't see me just talking about God in every single video. Like, it's a balance of like being relatable in a sense, as like a normal human being, like a gym bro like me who just goes to the gym, like, the trading, like I do a bunch of little random things, but I also have a foundation rooted in Jesus. So it's like I do my Bible studies and like our Discord 3 times a week. I try to give back in a sense, while also still doing all my other things. You know what I mean? Like it's not that you have to make like God like the only thing and everything. It's like you, in a sense, even if you dig closer to God, you can still, in a sense, like have fun now and then, maybe gamble in a healthy way. That leads to like, I don't know, it's hard to say gamble in a healthy way, but like, I don't know, like in a safe way, maybe is a better term to do it. But I'm not here to like judge and say like, oh, you can't do this, or God's going to say you can't do this and can't do that. A lot of the wrong Christians will do that and sit here and say like, you have to stop gambling or else God's not going to love you or want you, or that's all a bunch of bullshit in my opinion. It's just like yeah, God wants your attention in a sense. If you put God first as like the foundation and you're rooted in Him, meaning like whatever happens outside of that, it's just like whatever. Like when you get that mentality, then it's like, I think that's okay, and then the Holy Spirit will guide you into like kind of what is right, what is wrong, and maybe it reveals to you that you should stop, something like that. But maybe you won't. So again, like I'm not going to sit here and tell you like what it's exactly going to change or tell you what's right and what's wrong. That's like up to the Spirit to work within you as you get closer to God. But I don't know. I feel like there's so much more fulfillment, bro. Like when you find, like when I have someone come up to me and they're like, yo, you helped bring me to God, or bring me like to Jesus or something, or like it helped save my life. Like that's so much more of a fulfilling statement. They say like, yo, you got me from Him, and I've lost so much weight. But to be honest, that's cool. Like I don't care about that nearly as much as like their eternal salvation. Like knowing what comes to that even on earth, like what you get, the fruit of being close to God here on earth even. So like, I don't know. I feel like it's a really cool feeling. That
I think you've lost me a tiny bit though. So I would be doing the same things, potentially, but that would still. The difference would be like I would be more promoting God within my content as like that's like the
maybe it changes it. Maybe it's like again, this is me speaking hypothetically because I'm not God. You know what I mean? I'm just a male with my issues that I struggle with, but. Maybe it's a safer aspect of doing it, or maybe it's like you give winnings to people or to an organization. I mean, there's like different ways in which a guy can still use even something like that for his glory in some aspect, where it's not you just trying to get as much money as you can. Maybe it's you're trying to get this money so you can donate it or something. You know what I mean? Like,
but I still have the like. When I have bread, like this video, you guys will see later on in this video, I'm gonna be. I'm giving away a bunch of money because I have a bunch of money to give away. So I'm still doing this. So why do I need to be religious to like follow that path? Or like I don't know if Steve will do it's religious or not, but like he does the whole like super general thing, but he gives away a bunch. And I still want to do those things, but that decision isn't guided by my relationship with God. It's just guided by like that is what I would like to do.
So I believe that regardless of you thinking it's not, I believe that it is guided by God, because what I believe it says in the Bible, you're created in the image of God. Mm-hmm. So you have God's morality stamped on your heart. We know right from wrong without having to directly know a relationship with Him. We're His creation, so in a sense we have the DNA of Him. So we're more likely to understand like this is right, even though I don't have a direct relationship with Jesus. Like I still know it feels good because He made it. He made me this way for it to feel good, for me to give money away to people. So I think it all stems back from the Christian God. It's just like you don't know it quite yet. Like
that makes a lot of sense.
It without like it's still like we're all made in the image, so we know right from wrong without having to know the relationship. Like you don't have to read your Bible to know it feels good and it is good to give money away.
I think that is all a refreshing breath of air for me, because it's like part of the reason because like I said, I want to be religious and I like know there's a God and there's like a plan for me, all this good stuff. But it's been very intimidating for me because it's like, all right, but like low key, it sounds like this God is gonna see me as like everything I'm doing is wrong. So it's like, do I really want to like explore that too deeply? But now everything you've said makes perfect sense. As far as like the whole like Jesus died for our sins thing, it makes sense that I can still do what I'm doing just with a relationship with God, and to a large degree, I already have the relationship with God within me, but I've just not been able to diagnose everything that I'm doing as like credited to my relationship with God. So that I agree with everything you said. I think that's refreshing to hear.
Yeah. If God did happen to move through you and tell you that you needed, let's just say this, like I'm not saying this is going to happen, but like if you said you had to stop gambling or you had to stop doing this or that, would you say yes to it? If you felt like God genuinely was moving you in that direction, would you say yes to it and take Or would you try it?
Well, it depends on like exactly what that feels like to me. Cause I don't know what that
Yeah,
feels
yeah.
like because to me it feels like gambling. It's like it's obviously a bad habit, but it's something in which I derive entertainment from,
Yeah.
and like it's almost like I love gambling with my friends. Like it brings me close to my friends. It's a fun activity that we like love to do together, bond over. So overall, I see no foul in gambling if you're conscious of what you're doing. Like if you go into gambling and you're I with an expectation of I need to make money, this and that, then it gets to this weird. Relationship with it where it's unhealthy for sure, but I don't know what it would feel like for God to come at me and be like, this isn't the path, this isn't good for you, because it seems like such
Let's try that again.
an enjoyable
So
activity.
you feel like it's not wrong. So the reason why I asked that is because, like, at the end of what I really believe is God, not himself would do that, but maybe he would. Because all God wants is your yes. Meaning, if he was, you would submit to him, regardless of what you are trying to get out of it. Meaning, so like, there's a story in the New Testament where Jesus is talking to a man, and this man's trying to follow him, and he like keeps the commandments, like he's a good man. But then Jesus says, "Sell everything you have and follow me." And the man like has so many possessions; he's a very wealthy man, and he's not really able to do it. So then basically he's not able to follow Jesus. But I genuinely believe it's not. He just wanted. Jesus wasn't going to make him sell all his stuff. He wanted his yes. Like if that was to happen, he just wants you to say yes to it. Meaning like, I love making money, right? But I still submit to God. If God told me he wanted every single ounce of dollar I've ever made, I would say yes. Like obviously that would kind of suck, but he just not that he's going to take it. It's just he just wants my yes. So I'm saying if God was to guide you in a direction that you feel like isn't fair, isn't right, you will find so much more of a like fulfillment, like in putting it in God's hands and just submitting it to Him. And it's hard for me to explain that to you because you aren't like what you get it. There's different stages to like a relationship with God or whatnot.
All right, boom. Yeah, but regarding the giving the God, yes, I can't say that I would or would not do that just because I don't know what it like feels like to have a relationship like that with God. Because right now, what it sounds like is some fucking dick on the street being like, "Give me all your money," because I don't know him. And as at this point in my life, like it doesn't feel like I owe enough to him where it's like I will sacrifice everything. Like my mother, yeah, for sure, because that's like I know, and it's like God's your creator, but like it's hard to wrap your head around that when like my mother actually birthed me and I don't have the relationship with God yet to commit myself to that. So no, I can't say I would give my yes to God now just because I think it comes from a place because I'm not doubting it by any means. I'm very open-minded to the experience, but I just don't. I'm educated on enough to confidently be like, yes, this is something I can commit to.
No, that's 100% valid. I feel like I don't know. I would love to talk to you more about it. I'm extremely like you'll find like I'm very passionate about this. In the case of although like I just met you today, like I'm huge on like especially when I meet someone like new who I know in a sense even has like a platform. Like I love talking about God because like I know what it's done for me and I know what it can do for like you. So like I don't know, like the way I would like I hope I'm not like ever trying to force anything, but it's like if I had to cure cancer, I wouldn't keep it to myself.
Yeah,
I would probably tell people about it. So I feel like I have something that I want everyone to have experience. So that's why you'll find me talking to you about it.
Yeah, well, and I think that I've had this conversation. A lot of people talk to me about God because for whatever reason, like you would know better than me, but whereas it been like my lifestyle and the path, the things that I do, a lot of people think that I really need God, but I never have somebody approach it in a direction of like, oh, this is like how this works and explain what your thinking is. I get 100 DMs a day, people saying like, you need God, bro, find God, bro, like, whatever, like almost like insulting that it's like it just feels it makes me it like pushes me away from the experience just because I have people that's all they say. It's like figure it out, like you need God. It's like fuck you, you don't know what I need because I'm perfectly content with my life and I love my life and like as far as I'm concerned, like I'm on the right path for myself and it's offensive that somebody that I don't know is gonna come and be like, do this, you need this, trust me. But the way you've explained it is perfect, and it's I appreciate that conversation a lot because I've actually learned something, and it feels like I've advanced my education and willingness to look into religion, Jesus Christ, God, and all that stuff. So I do. You've approached it in a perfect way.
So happy to crash on that one. Yeah, I would love to talk to you more about like, dude, I've looked into so much like the history of it because like I used to be a little bit skeptical for a while. Like, I like was always obsessed with science and history. So that helped me further my faith because I looked into like certain things that like most Christians don't know about, like the historical aspect of Jesus, and like it's crazy. Like it's crazy. So to me, it's like I know even now that there's evidence for it, so I'm like I have to believe the teachings of this man. And that's why I'm like, so big on like others also like kind of, you know, experience it. But God loves you, bro. Like very much. He's gonna bless you like with your platform. And I think because I know you're saying like you're very, you know, cool with where you are in life now, but I really think as happy you're fulfilled as you feel like you are now, you will always get to a point where you are still left needing something, and it's going to be God. So I learned finding that earlier than later just because it keeps you grounded and it makes everything so much better and easier because you're not putting your life in your own hands and having to give it back. It's putting it in God's hands, you're putting it in His hands, and it's such a weight off your shoulders when you can like generally go through life like knowing you're doing the right thing, but like your whole life is in the creator, the universe's hands. It's a really like I make a lot of money, right? But I still like put everything like however it's gonna perform, I like put it on God. And like it's such a it's like I just make money easily and it's like God still
But to me, it feels like I love like the idea that everything is on. Everything, it's like a game, you know, like the game, and I can do like infinitely different things that are affecting the outcome of my game. But the way you described it just then almost feels like, yeah, it's on my hands. You just kind of like go with the flow.
Well, no, because in a sense, because still God, there's things that God teaches you, like the Bible, that like you can't not be lazy, you not believe. There's a bunch of, in a sense, there's really good teachings, regardless if you want to be religious or not. There's stuff that Ecclesiastes is a really good book in the Old Testament that I highly encourage people reading. It's about stuff in a sense being like meaningless, but it does seem to say in a sense when you stop working. It's a thing of putting the following of what you do, putting the end result in God's hands, not trying to become God. Like, if God told me, like, tomorrow all my social medias will be gone, like, yeah, it would suck, but, like, I'm trusting in Him. There's a peace that comes along with that. Even if my socials are gone tomorrow, I'll probably pick up the next day and just start from zero and start grinding again. It's just how I am. So I'm not saying, like, because I get the whole reunion reference. I used to think about that too. Like, that's how life is. Like, I take every challenge or opportunity as a new state of hands at the next level for everyone. So I'm not saying it's just like media to sit back and like God judges, God calls you to take action. God is legitimately do things with your life in a way that also still like benefit other people. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But don't you think like God or not, you would be doing well, I don't know, but you would still be taking the initiative if you didn't have this relationship with God to be productive most for yourself.
Yeah, I just feel like without God, though, it's like what's the point? It's like if there's no God, I'm just doing this for absolutely what's the point? If there's no God, then there's no like point. There's no standard of
As long as you're doing it to impress God, like, yeah,
wake up again.